the top 4 at the end of the split, and getting those championship points, and of course the finals in Madrid.
It also means that you avoid Fnatic in that reseeding process coming into
do you want to avoid Vitality at this point?
That's true. Vitality look incredibly strong as well, so both these teams still looking for those spots in Madrid. G2 on the blue, Schalke on the red. Bans coming out thick and fast. Braum, Alistair, Ezreal from G2, Rakan, Aatrox, and Akali from Schalke.
So a lot of focus towards the bot side of the map. Wouldn't surprise me if Taliyah is the first pick for the side of G2. When we look at Vander, his 2 best performing supports have been both the Braum and the Alistair. They've also taken upset off of that safe AD carry in the Ezreal. Now you're looking at a slightly higher priority on things like the Varus, the Tahm Kench as well. Wouldn't surprise me if Schalke look to try and prioritize that. Instead, it looks like that they're going to go for that flex.
Ooh, and the Olaf straight in there as well. Could be for Amazing, could go somewhere else. We've really only seen it played in the jungle thus far.
We're very much expecting it to be in the jungle. It's considered, especially over in the LCK, to be an answer to the Taliyah. We did see it yesterday against for Kikis, and he had a pretty solid performance on it. In the early game, it's great at sticking onto the target, and once you hit that level 6 mark, you pretty much completely ignore any CC that she's able to throw at you. So I like the pick, I like the matchup. Schalke already going for a strong 2v2 with the Ryze and Olaf.
Doesn't suit the playstyle we've tended to see from Amazing, though. Olaf relatively aggressive in the early game. G2 going for a very safe bottom lane, something we've seen from them so often. Utility AD carry for Hjärnan, and then the Tahm Kench for Wadid. And the final pick of the first rotation is a Lulu for NukeDuck.
Now, Lulu we haven't seen for a while. She was played when Funnel was very popular, both in mid and in support, sometimes even in the bot lane position. It looks like that this is going to be picked into the Tahm Kench. They're looking for a strong 2 versus 2. Curious as to what kind of AD carry they're going to match this up with. Typically, if you do have a range support, you look at something like a hyper carry. But, you know, there are so many hyper carry options. You're kind of left with a pretty wide array. Kai'Sa would be one of the ones that you'd come to mind, but then immediately G2 are going to ban that off the board. Ashe is another possibility. A part of me is looking at champions like Jinx, but I don't know if that really makes a lot of sense on the side of Schalke's composition. Be honest, kind of just throwing names out of a hat right now. I'm just going to wait and see what Schalke decide to go for.
Throw them all out there, we'll see what happens. Yasuo bans Kai'Sa and the Lucian bans from G2, so they know that bot lane hyper carry in the form of the Kai'Sa is a possibility. Ashe there as well if Schalke want a little bit of utility from their bot lane.
Yeah, I think an engage is always very valuable to have, especially if you can get it from the bot side of the map. We were talking a little bit about the Ashe and how she's still very prevalent in the current meta. She does scale quite nicely, and she's often considered a pretty decent matchup into the Varus because of her poke, of her wave clear, and how she can just play pretty safe back in the lane as well. So far for Schalke, they have pretty good mid-game with the Ryze and the Olaf. They have good scaling options with the Ashe and the Lulu. Now they just kind of round out what they often do with a tanky top lane. And remember, the Poppy is still up and available, one of Chachi's big comfort picks. When you pair that up with an Ashe, you do have engage options, and I feel like that it could be a nice way to round out the comp for G2, should they want to stick to comfort.
G2 are going to lock in the Fizz as their final pick here. Could be into the Ryze. We have seen Fizz played into Zoe over in the NA LCS recently. That was one of the last picks available here. But Poppy locked in for Chachi, went all the way through picks and bans. So it's going to be Ryze mid and Poppy top for Schalke.
Surprised that we're seeing the Fizz come out from G2. Going to be a lot of focus on getting PerkZ ahead. We talked about it on the Analyst Air Squad. This is the man that G2 need to play around. And when he is on this big carry, something like the Fizz can pop off. We saw Capstrite on Fnatic against Yulwell. Yesterday, they were unable to pull it off, but today could be different. That 2v2 matchup is going to be integral. And how much can the rest of the team get involved? How often will Wunder roam down to mid? Will Wadid use his ultimate to roam up to mid and enable PerkZ on this Fizz? It's going to be so much around G2's mid laner and Star to get this team that 3rd place spot.
Looking to get into Madrid through that favorable path in the seedings, but it's a difficult road for G2. They have to face up against Schalke, who've got Chachi on his Poppy, one of his signature picks, who brought Amazing onto the Olaf in the jungle as well, something a little bit new for him. A monumental clash between these two organizations. Having already lost to Vitality today, they will not want to fail at the final hurdle.
Both these teams already on a 0-1 scoreline. Somebody has to win, which means that this will be our final game of the day. Vitality locking in that 2nd place, obviously behind Fnatic. Gives us a quick opportunity. If you don't have tickets yet, you can still go get them for Madrid, as we do know that Fnatic and Vitality will for sure be there.
That's going to be amazing. Like, watching Fnatic and Vitality in that stadium in Madrid is going to be incredible, and one of these teams will be possibly joining them as well. Have to remember that Splyce and Misfits are already locked into our playoffs as well. They are in those quarterfinal berths. These teams are fighting for the chance to play against Splyce. Want to avoid Misfits early on if you can.
Now, in terms of the early game, remember we talked a little bit about how Olaf can be very strong. He is a little mana dependent, and depending on who you talk to will give you different perspectives on the champion. Some believe that he wants to farm to 6, and then once he reaches that point, then you can look to invade, then you can look for these early skirmishes. Others say that because of his fast wave clear and once you got a blue buff, you can look to invade much earlier. You can look to try and force a couple fights. And I feel like that with the draft that Schalke have gotten for themselves, they will have push in the middle lane. In terms of the early laning phase, they should have push down towards the bot as well. So if Amazing is going to invade anywhere, it should be towards the bot side of the map, and it should be towards that red buff. But no deep vision has been set up from either side. It looks like that the more defensive style is going to be played from both sides.
Wouldn't be surprised at all if Amazing does just farm up to 6. That's the sort of jungler he's played this split. The Sejuani, things like the Gragas as well. Just those are his more comfortable champions, whereas Jankos on this Taliyah, undefeated this split, has had 2 very good games on it, 9-3-9 across the course of those 2 games. I'm looking to see what early impact he can have on this jungler, especially around that mid lane where we want to see G2 get PerkZ ahead.
Now we enter the passive early laning phase, where there'll be lots of farming, lots of poking, keeping an eye on where the junglers are looking in terms of their early pressure. Talking a little bit about these matchups, we don't often see a Lulu in competitive play. And the thing about Lulu is, well, it's important to preface this by one of the reasons why we don't see range supports in the bot lane is because of how squishy they are. And once many bot laners hit level 6, you are very susceptible to getting all in and potentially killed. So that's often why you don't see it, but against champions like a Tahm Kench, that all-in level 6 threat is that much lower, which means that in this matchup, Schalke feel that they can afford to do it. It's much safer, and they'll be able to get through the laning phase. And the thing about Lulu is she has a lot of poke. You can land with the E, throughout the harass with the Q as well. You have decent push pressure as well, and it just forces the G2 bot lane to just play on the defensive for most of the early laning phase.
All that extra harass coming out from the Lulu. You talked about how the Ashe is a good matchup into the Varus as well. We're seeing that already as they have pushed in this lane just a little bit. Let's have a look at how the junglers are pathing here, though, because Jankos got his red, has got this top side Scuttle Crab, now has his blue as well, and is going towards that mid lane, trying to facilitate PerkZ. NukeDuck maybe a little bit overstepped as PerkZ jumps in. NukeDuck needs to dodge away from Jankos and PerkZ. There's the flash. And first summoner spell burned on Schalke.
This is what we wanted to see from G2, playing around their star mid laner PerkZ. He is on the Fizz. Getting early kills on this champion is vital to the success of him because he is pretty snowball reliant. He does have decent late game damage, his scaling is good, but playing assassins in late game fights is very difficult, and Jankos, he's not slowing down.
Yeah, coming in with an early gank once again down towards this bottom lane, misses the seismic shove on Vander, which means no summoners will be burnt by Schalke. Amazing's on the top side of the map here, maybe trying to get towards mid, but NukeDuck has pushed in this lane after teleporting back.
So with the flash now gone for NukeDuck, they can look to go for a return gank. That's why you're seeing Amazing hanging around. He doesn't want to he doesn't want his mid lane to die, basically. So he is there to act as that supportive barrier. He's spending a lot of time just hanging around. Once NukeDuck pushes this wave out, they'll probably go back to base because he needs to play on the defensive, and then PerkZ can pick up this farm and everyone's a happy chappy.
Yeah, Scuttle Crab is spawning topside as well, so perhaps Schalke would get a little bit of vision control around here if they can to make sure that G2 can't do too much. Chachi has pushed in this top side, and Wunder gives a little bit of respect to Schalke there, just backs away.
Yeah, he doesn't want to run the risk of a dive. It is difficult to dive this early on into the game, but Wunder showing that respect regardless. Now we see PerkZ continuing on with the farm, still at a deficit, very much what you'd expect from the Fizz. He doesn't have teleport, which means that if he doesn't go back at the right time, he can lose even more farm. But taking a lot of harassment, doesn't have much mana.
Jankos trying to get the flank on here. Amazing staying around. PerkZ is forced away, as you say. We'll go back, pick up some mana for himself from the fountain, and Jankos just used it as an opportunity to get into this bottom quadrant of the Schalke jungle.
Now, we did hear from Sheepy about how G2 as a team have a lot of players that are have a bit of bite behind them, especially when they lose. They get a lot more motivated, they want to prove themselves, they want to show that they are still top players and a top team in Europe. And picking champions like this Fizz, which has very high risk, high reward a play style, is kind of an emphasis to that, because PerkZ, he has a long history here in the European LCS. In his debut split, he won it, and he was able to do that 4 times in a row back-to-back. Internationally, he didn't have the best experience, but the last MSI that he went to, he made it to the finals. He was praised a lot. Many people said that was the peak point in his career, getting multiple solo kills down onto Faker, who's considered the best mid laner in the world. And over the last year, they haven't been able to find that success. They rebuilt the roster, PerkZ was the foundation, and then he picked the players around him. They were able to make it to the final last split after what was a bit of an up and down, rocky split, but then they ended up getting 3-0'd by Fnatic. Coming into this season, they wanted to change that. They still wanted to make the final. They still wanted to prove that this team was just an investment and they could build it to be a title holder here in Europe. But right now, they're sitting for the battle for 3rd place, and while that's good, while that's still impressive, it is PerkZ that wants to show that he's deserving of that top spot and that he can make it back to being a King of Europe.
Has just hit the level 6 in this mid lane as he and Jankos pushed in. Jankos, a player that has always been close to those final matches, close to reaching glory, never really achieved it as well. His story goes back years. Remember when he was playing on H2K, started off on Rocket as well, and since then, he always seems to fall at the final hurdle, and that has happened for him again today. The Vitality match, he really struggled. So now he wants to prove that he can get further in those playoffs once again.
Now, I really want to see him gank the mid, just because PerkZ has hit that level 6 mark. There's still no flash available on NukeDuck, and if you're going to kill anyone, it should be him. It's a prime opportunity to do so. You can already see Tahm Kench setting up a lot of vision through the bot side river. There are plenty of avenues for G2 to make this play happen. They just have to do it before NukeDuck's flash comes back up.
Are there any risks for them ganking that mid lane? Because you have to think about the other side of the coin. What can Schalke do if G2 invests too much time around that mid?
Well, I mean, there's the always risk of a counter gank. We talked about how Olaf can be scary in these early skirmishes, and the 2 versus 2 is definitely strong in favor of Schalke. But the bigger risk is that stopwatch that's going to be coming up at about 10 minutes, where Fizz will lose a lot of pressure because you can just stopwatch the ulti. And then once Ryze completes his Seraph, he has the shield. He'll likely get a stopwatch of it, the full completed Zhonya's, and then that kill threat starts to get a lot harder. So, like, the emphasis is on G2 to make these early game plays, and rather than look at mid, they actually have their eyes set on bot.
Level 6 already, Hjärnan, Vander and Upset do not have their ultimates yet. So with the threat of Jankos coming in with the Weaver's Wall, with the threat of the Chum the Waters and the Chain of Corruption, Schalke decide to back away. Interesting to see Hjärnan actually hit the ults first. Here's the Weaver's Wall, Chum the Waters, NukeDuck tries to get away but gets knocked up and he is done for. Burst blood to G2.
This is the exact play that we wanted to see. NukeDuck thought that he was safe to push up the wave because G2 were moving towards the bot side of the map. It ends up being a mistake. And NukeDuck ends up losing his life just as his flash comes back off, and this is not the way he wanted the early game to go. On this Ryze, you're scaling towards that 2-item spike. You want to play the slow early game. You don't want to allow this Fizz to snowball, and right now it is G2 that have found that first blood. They sit at a 1,000 gold lead right now. Their bot lane has found a bit of pressure back. They have a level 6, but they're not trying to force anything for the time being. Keep our eyes on... we will be able to bring up that replay right now. So, hey, you have vision on him. NukeDuck thinks that if I play towards the top side, I should be fine. But hey, the range on that ultimate is extremely long. His flash may have even been up, but he thought that he could get out with the Realm Warp. Wasn't able to do it. Wunder was even TPing in to cut off his escape. Everything came together. So, good play there from G2. Now we need to see how much more they can snowball. Ignite is back up for PerkZ. Flash is available for NukeDuck when that Chum the Waters is up. I'd love to see them try and force another flash out from NukeDuck and maybe even play towards the bot side. We talked about the squishy Lulu. There are a lot of options here for G2 after getting that first kill.
Sitting in a very strong spot at the moment. Blue buff went over to PerkZ as well. Just trades into NukeDuck there with the Electrocute and the Seastone Trident. Does a lot of work. But Amazing's coming in for the gank. Has just really farmed up towards that level 6. Spend a little bit of time around the mid lane, but has not really been seen on the map. There's the Chum the Waters into Ignite. NukeDuck tries to flash away, but PerkZ just has his number all the way to the bank. PerkZ is going to jump away here. Will eventually get taken out by Amazing, but 1-for-1 trade in the mid.
This is the power of Fizz when he gets only a little bit ahead. Having the teleport means that there's no defensive summoner available on NukeDuck, and PerkZ even predicts the flash as NukeDuck is trying to escape. So, gets the 1v1 kill, amazing, does return it, but that pressure is starting to mount in the mid lane. The superstar for G2 PerkZ is coming online, and he is the player that they need if they want to find themselves a win and 3rd place at the end of the regular season.
And G2 just have almost perfect vision control of Amazing. Whenever he's roaming around the map, he's spotted on these river wards, he's spotted on wards up towards the top side as well. It's going to be bottom tower going across to G2. After we saw this Ashe Lulu lane picked in, Jankos gets hit with the arrow. Hjärnan's going to take down the tower. There's the chain of corruption as well to slow them. Upset uses the cleanse, but they cannot stop the tower going down.
You can feel the pressure starting to mount for Schalke right now. Vander was banned out in the draft. They selected the Lulu as an alternative. They didn't put much priority on the Tahm Kench, and so far in the laning phase it is not working out. Losing that priority around mid is giving G2 the option to play towards the bot side of the map, and now with that first tower down, they can move Hjärnan and Wadid elsewhere. We can look back at this replay from earlier. PerkZ uses the Q to close the gap, throws the ulti out, hits the flash at the last second to make sure that he guarantees the damage, and he ends up finding that solo kill. Now, because of the W from Ryze, you end up getting locked underneath for a very long time, but oh, that's a Zhonya's!
Straight into chum the waters here. PerkZ going to try and trade onto NukeDuck, but Chachi's on his way. PerkZ not in the best of shapes, Wadid gobbles him up and spits him out away from that, and was a little bit dangerous there for the G2 mid laner.
Not sure why NukeDuck used his stopwatch. Hopefully the observers can bring up a pip as to what exactly happened there, if it was a misclick or if he was trying to dodge some kind of skill shot. But Wadid was there to help save PerkZ from what would have been disaster, as both Vizicsacsi and Amazing were in position to turn that one around. Thank you very much, observers. So we're going to get to see this now. NukeDuck hanging around, and he just Zhonya'd. Interesting. Must have been a misclick. Maybe he expected the fish earlier. Not entirely sure, but maybe it was a bait. Maybe with 3 people around, he was just like, ooh, come now,
That is how you catch fish. Hjärnan trying to chase down in the bottom lane, but the hammer down will come in from Chachi, and Schalke able to find something on the map, but they are still 2,000 gold behind. A lot of that actually sitting on Jankos in the early game here. Has about a 20 CS lead over his opposing man. And once again, Amazing just not having the impact in the early game he would have liked. And because of that, Jankos is on the top side. Great arrow from Upset to keep himself alive for the moment, but it's not going to keep him alive for that much longer. Jankos gets the kill. Vander in here as well. Teleport coming in from Chachi trying to join this fight. Knocks Jankos into the wall. He's down. Tahm Kench. Wadid is there alongside PerkZ, and G2 trying to turn this fight around in the top lane. NukeDuck has the realm warp if he wants to join, but at the moment, Vander's just trying to dodge around as much as he can. NukeDuck low on mana, joins the fight from the bottom side. The chain of corruption lands onto Vander, but he uses the wild growth to keep himself alive, and G2 have this one turned back on them. They have to run away because they still haven't taken that tower. Dragon goes down. Amazing doing something in this early game. Wadid so low, but just about escaping for the moment. Schalke able to hold off the fight in the top lane.
Whew, no one dies off the back of that exchange, but Schalke walk away with the Drake. That was such a long fight. So many health bars got so insanely low, but no massive advantage were gained for either side. Looking forward to getting the replay of that one. I believe it started with Upset dying in the top lane, trying to defend the tower. You've also got to remember, conversely, on the bot side of the map, Hjärnan died in the 1 versus 1 versus Chachi. So after that had happened, Upset's trying to play defensive. He wants to be on the back foot. You can see that Jankos has the wall, and they know that Upset's isolated, so they go for the lockdown. They get they get an early flash out from Upset because of the wall. Jankos does have to use his flash in return thanks to a good arrow from Upset, but then this is where the chaos starts. Everyone starts making their way up towards the mid lane. It is initially a 2 versus 2 where Schalke find themselves the first kill, and then really good play from Vizicsacsi to avoid any further damage from PerkZ. And at this point, G2 need to disengage because PerkZ is now out of the fight. He didn't have his ultimate, he didn't have any utility. Vander is going to die.
Yeah, he's pretty squishy. He gets caught out. Wild Growth about to come off cooldown, but not soon enough. Jankos catches out the Lulu.
Like, that fight was so long that G2 have already made another play before it could even end. But basically, it was just G2 overextending when they didn't need to. It allowed NukeDuck to roam up towards the top side. He was able to provide the damage needed to force G2 off. And while all that action was happening, Schalke secured the first Drake of the game. Now G2 are in a position to get a bit of deep vision. They have push up towards the top side and mid after taking the bot tower. They can use this to either secure the Rift Herald, or they can look to just secure a free outer objective in either top and mid.
Jankos is having a very strong performance in this game. 3-1-0 on the Taliyah, helping out PerkZ in the early game as well, who is now getting jumped on by Amazing and NukeDuck. No way out of this one. Amazing slays PerkZ. G2 getting the Rift Herald and answering with a top lane tower.
So Schalke are answering the pressure here from G2. They are trying to make their own moves on the map, and they catch PerkZ completely unawares. Now 1 and 2 after what was a good start. Meanwhile, Jankos is able to secure himself the Rift Herald. So trades constantly going back and forth. Amazing just going to hang around. Doesn't want to give this away for free. I don't know if he can stop them, though.
Pretty sure he can't at the moment. Wadid standing there ready with the Devour in case anything did happen, so he'd be able to get Jankos out of the fight.
So I'm surprised PerkZ chose not to flash out of that situation. He clearly just didn't respect that NukeDuck would flash after him. Both mid laners right now sitting at 2 deaths, and the jungle is kind of reaping the rewards of some of the early plays. They're going to be some of the key players that we watch throughout the next few fights, because remember, Amazing going to be looking to dive onto the backline and kind of rely on the support from players like Chachi to kind of threaten players like Hjärnan and, well, I mean mainly Hjärnan, because PerkZ is going to have his eyes set on the backline. He wants to be killing Upset, and one of the struggles that assassins can often have is when they play against ranged supports, there's a lot of utility in their kit. And that polymorph against a Fizz who isn't ready for it, it just lasts for so long that immediately the rest of your team can just turn around and shut him down.
It's especially difficult for PerkZ because the bot lane of Schalke has been one of their strongest points in the last while. Wadid comes in, double hammer knock away by Vizicsacsi, puts the verdict onto Hjärnan and Wadid, and it's that they are not worthy of joining this fight in the bottom lane. Chachi's going to still run away here. Wunder slowly running out of mana, won't be able to get the chase on.
Good disengage there from Chachi. You are seeing the difference in his play when he's able to play something that he has shown a lot of proficiency on so far this split. PerkZ now deep in enemy territory. Schalke have spotted him, but he's just going to hop, skip, jump out of that one. Only level 11 right now, 1-2-1. Not quite snowballing off the early start. Yet to complete his first major item, which looks to be the Zonius.
Seems like he's going down that path. NukeDuck got all the mana in the world that he can. Catalyst of the Aeons and the tier finished for him. Looks like Upset's going towards a Blade of the Ruin King, which actually Hjärnan has already completed and has that Zeal in his back pocket.
Hjärnan had a pretty good laning phase. First early couple levels looked a little dire, but after securing that first tower in the bot lane, thanks to the assistance of Jankos and PerkZ, he was able to just slowly build this CS lead even further. So Schalke right now still relatively even against G2. They're mainly down in towers, which is where the gold discrepancy is coming from. Even though they are at this deficit, it's not the end of the world. They scale fairly nicely because of the Ashe and Lulu combo. They will have a decent mid-game spike as well with the Ryze, but they have the 1-3-1 option available to them, and there are a lot of pick opportunities that they have at their disposal with the comp that they've drafted themselves.
Have to remember as well, Schalke had a pretty hefty reality check yesterday when they played up against H2K. Took the loss against them, leading to that H2-16 scoreline. Here they're trying to fight back from that, prove that they are a team that deserves one of these top spots. Wadid eats up Hjärnan, but Chachi's just waiting around the corner. Jankos coming in with PerkZ here. The Rift Herald joins the fray as well. Call of the Forge God used by Wunder. Only knock up onto Vander, but they can chase that Lulu if they want. Rift Herald comes in, takes down the tower. Chachi now not in a good spot at all. And finally NukeDuck's joined his teammates, but G2 just going to keep pushing forward. PerkZ on the back line. Goodbye, Upset, he says. Stands up for his team and is counted once again. PerkZ, the man of the moment. They're pushing towards this next tower.
G2 looking strong as a 5-man unit. They still have the Rift Herald alive. I don't know if they want to keep the pressure up. They won't. They're going to move elsewhere on the map. And ooh, Tahm Kench, it looks like he has found a jungler. Ooh, but Amazing was just able to get back to base. Huge play coming off the back of G2, extending their gold lead now to 3.5k.
All starts from Chachi trying to get the flank on Hjärnan, and we did.
So the arrow comes out from Upset to try and interrupt Jankos, but a good body block from Hjärnan with the swallow up from Wadid is kind of what kicks off this play, because Vizicsacsi comes in from the flank. The engage is just a little uncoordinated from that of Schalke, and if they just interrupted that Rift Herald, this tower doesn't end up going down. But seeing as PerkZ is like, all right, well, I'm just going to capitalize on the chaos, dives immediately onto the AD carry, is forced to use all of his summoner spells, but he gets both out of Upset as well, and there's little you can do on the Ashe without the support of your support.
Yeah, Vander was not there, couldn't use the Wild Growth, couldn't use the heal to help out his AD carry. Upset, a player that has really stepped up for Schalke in the last few weeks, struggling a lot in this game. as Schalke are struggling against G2. 3,500 gold behind. They're losing this Inferno Drake as well. Chachi tried to get in to do something about it, but the chase is on. It's all on Vander. Has the flash, misses the call of the Forge God, but now Vander's come down towards the bottom side of this, and Wadid could go for the chase if he wants. They decide against it. They do not know exactly where all of Schalke are.
Doesn't quite go the angle that Wunder would have liked. Upset, taking the definition of playing safe to a new level, playing literally behind the jungle.
As a support who likes it when their AD carries don't just run into the enemy jungler, I'm pretty happy with Upset doing that.
Well, he has no summoner spells as well, and he's like, yeah, you know what, I'm just going to play on the back end for the time being. He is going to be one of the backup win conditions for Schalke as the game progresses, but right now it is G2 that are in full control. Now remember, last split it was G2 that were able to move into the second place spot. They did secure themselves that bye after what was a tiebreaker against Splice, who ended up taking that third place spot. After a great game versus Vitality today, G2 have not slowed down in terms of the action. They've been looking for a lot of early skirmishes. We're now approaching 20 minutes and Schalke are feeling heated. They're invading onto the enemy jungle. They want to get a couple of early towers themselves, but G2 still holding firm.
Schalke looking to Vizicsacsi. Both teams, of course, playing for that third spot in the regular season. Gives you a matchup versus Splice in the quarterfinals. Means that you are the higher seeded team when it comes to reseeding for the semis as well.
I believe that if you're the third seeded, it means you're guaranteed to fight Vitality. Because there can be no seed.
Guaranteed fight in the mid lane here as well as Hjärnan gets caught out by the arrow. Upset was the one to land it, and NukeDuck will be the one to secure the kill.
Why was Hjärnan there? You know, we had Upset who was playing ultra defensive, and Hjärnan's like, I'm going to play ultra aggressive then. And he's literally under an inhibitor tower of Schalke, asking to get picked off. That's his second isolated death of the game. Definitely not the kind of mistakes you can afford to be making in this high pressure environment. Schalke, they find themselves another kill, and now G2 forced to slow down.
It just puts a little bit of a break on their plans for the moment. While we do have that short break, let's have a look at where we are item-wise. PerkZ has finished that. Zonya's first item from him. Second item's come out from Hjärnan, he's gone Runans. On the other side, the key carries NukeDuck, Abyssal Mask into Zonya's for him, and then it's the Blade of the Ruin King already for Upset. Chachi is in a good spot as well with the Sunfire Cape and Adaptive Helm already completed.
So I love the Zonya's rush from NukeDuck. I think that it's such a good item into Fizz specifically, largely because whenever he throws that fish out, you can just Zonya's the damage. And sure, it does allow Fizz to reposition and close the gap against you, but it's just a lot of his damage that you end up dodging. So I like the respect being shown from PerkZ, even though there's a lot of magic damage on the side of G2. Fortunately, he does have the Abyssal Mask to help mitigate some of that. We'll now look at something like a Void Staff next, after fully upgrading his tier to kind of help provide that extra bit of damage that Schalke are going to rely on as we move on to the mid to late game.
So it looks like Schalke have moved into more of a 1-3-1 here. Wunder and Chachi down in the bottom lane answering each other. PerkZ is going to try and answer NukeDuck up towards the top side. If this continues for a while, the scaling for Schalke seems to be in a very good spot.
Well, I feel like the scaling for G2 is also very good. You do have another mage in the jungle with Jankos. You've got to remember that in the late game, in terms of damage output, I'm always going to give it to the Taliyah over compared to the Olaf, who, without an early lead, can often struggle because his impact in late game fights is very limited. On top of that, PerkZ, as we mentioned, will scale nicely, and in a side lane or in a 1v1, he's definitely a threat you have to respect. Now, Jankos getting locked up.
Caught out a little bit. Seismic Shove does not connect. PerkZ was coming in from the side as well. G2 just trying to deny some of this vision if they can. Jankos does have the sweeper, but Schalke will step back forward. They know that Jankos is half HP, so they know they have an avenue to get some vision back in their own jungle.
This is something that G2 showed a lot of yesterday. Good deep vision around areas like the Baron. Even after falling behind, they love to make sure that they maintain information so that they can keep an eye on what their opposition is up to, see if there are opportunities to answer back. Good control ward setup around the Baron for the time being. PerkZ now a little overextended. Did use the E. NukeDuck has a target in his eyes.
Yeah, allows the Rune Prison to come out. Chum the Waters trying to respond, but NukeDuck will take no damage from that. It's very short range. Teleport coming in, and here comes Wadid as well. G2 trying to turn this one back around. PerkZ, the master at baiting these sorts of situations out. Wunder joins the fray. The Zonyas from PerkZ will keep him alive. Amazing gets a killing spree onto Jankos, though, and maybe Schalke can turn this one right back around on G2 because Schalke are the ones that have collapsed. The Chain of Corruption is not enough to stop Schalke in their tracks, and G2 are balling. Wunder can't do too much against 4 members of Schalke. Look at upset! Look at the key man for Schalke! He dives in! He gets 2! What a play from Schalke in the top lane!
Massive team fight for Schalke as they find themselves a 5-0. They can easily convert this into a Baron and reclaim control over this game.
And for a moment I thought G2 had done it. I thought they pulled the trigger at the opportune moment, but Schalke said no. They stamped their foot down. They're going to turn it into a Baron. They're going to turn this into a game-changing play.
What a big comeback for Schalke. Things were starting to look dire. This Fizz was getting strong. Could NukeDuck handle him in a side lane? Well, the answer is yes. PerkZ overextends just slightly. He doesn't have the proper support from his team. And look at how little damage he does initially to NukeDuck. In the extended trade, things looked okay, and the rest of the team tried to join, but a great ulti from Chachi ends up making this a 3 versus 3, where Jankos gets obliterated almost immediately. NukeDuck survives the whole exchange. Vander comes in clutch to keep him alive, and now they're just forced to retreat. PerkZ cannot stay in the fight. Hjärnan can't deal with Chachi, who's just glued to his face, and then upset with the flash in onto the support, and the 2 big carries enables them to get those last few kills, turn it into a Baron, and flip this game on its head.
Schalke team is just so sticky with the Ashe and with the Ryze and with the Poppy, and this is so much more like the Schalke we saw in the second half of the regular split. 10-2 they went until losing to Vitality today, and they, for a long time, were seen as the second best team in Europe. This is much more like that team.
Schalke, they've had a very up and down year. Last split not being able to qualify for playoffs. This year, bringing on amazing. Many question marks at the start of the split, but slowly improving as we got closer and closer. After locking in that playoff spot, many people thought that they could challenge Fnatic at the top of the table. But after today, they're now fighting for that 3rd place spot. They seem to have regained their confidence. Upset now level 13, 2-2 and 3. Chachi having a fantastic performance once again on the Poppy. With the Baron buff, with the split pushing NukeDuck down in the bot lane, will continue to put the pressure onto G2's base and look to knock them down into 4th place.
Still have that pick arrow tool if they need it as well. PerkZ goes in with the Urchin Strike. Call of the Forge God coming out with the teleport use straight away. They got upset. They demolished him, and now it's all on NukeDuck to try and turn this one around. Chachi in the midst of it all as well. But Schalke, you've got to realize that you cannot fight without your Ashe. Chachi gets the 2-man knock away, but Schalke just need to get away from this fight. I do not think they have the strength without upset.
But they can keep pressuring. They do have the Baron. Chachi doesn't have the teleport right now, but he doesn't need it because the 3 remaining members will secure themselves another tower. This is still a bit of extra gold in the pocket of Schalke, but big teamfight win for G2 there. Initially, it looked like PerkZ was out of position. I thought he was going to lose his life. Only level 14 right now, really fallen behind after that fight up in the top lane, but they end up converting it because of a great flank from Jankos and Wunder. Just goes to show both these teams still sitting at the top in Europe. Their team fighting is fantastic. So how does it all play out? Oh, I didn't notice the good ulti there from the Fizz onto the backline. Combine that with the knockback onto Jankos. Secures themselves a very clean kill onto Upset. He didn't have any summoner spells available, and even through the hill they find the kill. Even through the heal they find the kill. And Chachi there with a good disengage ulti keeps himself safe once again. Very close between these 2 teams. And it just goes to show 3 and 4, very close in terms of contention.
About 2,500 gold between the 2 of them. Schalke are about to get their 5th tower of the game. And Infernal and the Mountain Drake sitting in their back pockets as well. That Baron's still alive for about 18 seconds, or the buff still remains on them for about 18 seconds. Chachi has it. He's pushing in this top side. Jankos trying to do what he can to stop this push, but they can just get 1 or 2 autos in. The Chum the Waters lands once again. The Weaver's War, but Upset goes golden this time. Picked up the stopwatch, still knocked up. Chachi's in the midst of it all, and now Upset can just rain hell from the side. Chachi's so low, though, they're going to take down the tank, and maybe that will be the signal for G2 to engage. They decide against it. Already used all of those ultimates.
And this is another pick going in favor of G2. Medic, this game just keeps getting closer and closer. It seems to swing one way or the other. G2 started off in control of this game. Jankos had a bunch of kills. He was setting up PerkZ to be a big carry in the side lane. Then Schalke find this huge fight and a Baron, but now it's G2 again, finding these big picks, stalling out the game to longer, and we're going to end up in these 35, 40-minute late-game team fights that will be just so tense considering the caliber of these 2 teams.
considering the fact both teams scale relatively well as well. You've got Ashe, you've got Ryze, a lot of damage coming out from both of those. G2 have a slight advantage with that second mage in the jungle. If Jankos can be hitting that extra bit of damage, G2 might be able to take the fights later on. Let's have another look at how this fight went down.
So, it was the stopwatch sitting on Upset that helped keep him alive from Chum the Waters, and the rest of G2 can't really engage. Chachi dives underneath the tower and then completely whiffs the ultimate. That means that it is 5 versus 1, and the rest of Schalke can't really offer that level of support. So he ends up going down, adds another kill onto his scoreboard. A death, rather. And now we see the Ornn being blown once again.
Upset has to flash. Chum the Waters misses as well, but it was very close. Upset, he's the target for everything from G2. They continually just try and put the pressure on him. 2 minutes for the next Baron. Chachi's down in the bottom lane, pushing that out. No inhibitors off that last Baron buff for Schalke, which is a very big deal if you are a G2 fan.
If we can just have our observers quickly switch over to the gold differences between the two teams, you can see where a lot of the gold lies right now. Chachi is sitting on a huge part of that gold difference, between the two teams. And the same for NukeDuck. This man, after dying 1v1 in lane, after having a couple of ganks thrown at him, has actually been able to pull back a lot due to his farm in the side lane. He now has a full item over his lane counterpart and is going to be crucial in these next few fights, whereas Hjärnan is the one who needs to be one of the big carries in these late game fights for G2, and we've seen it before in the, I believe, last split with the Jhin against Splice. It was that quadra kill that he found in the Baron pit that helped G2 secure that buy. Thank you very much, observers, for doing that for us. And now, as the game progresses, these are some of the big carries that we're going to be keeping our eyes on.
Looking at NukeDuck, looking at Hjärnan, PerkZ still can do a lot of work. If you can catch out Upset, then that is a monumental play for him. Chain of Corruption used down here in the bottom lane. Chachi is all by himself. G2 perhaps missed time because the Baron is not up at all. G2 will be able to do something down here. Schalke not in the best of shots. I mean, Vizicsacsi is level 18. He won't die, but it doesn't matter because there's still 30 seconds before the Baron spawns, and Schalke cannot do anything anywhere else. You
hit the nail on the head there, Medic. You should not be pressuring if there's nothing else to trade. You just gave away your life for free. Fortunately, Chachi doesn't use any summoner spells, but Schalke didn't need to make that play. They didn't need to overextend. Look at your minimap. He comes back. Oh, so he pushes it out, and then he comes back for the farm. And then Wadid, with the Tahm Kench, is able to make the quick rotation. Easy engage. And ends up getting collapsed upon, and his ulti even gets interrupted as well.
He does farm enough minions to level up from 17 to 18 during this fight, though, so that's a small bonus if you're a Schalke fan.
Also, Wunder's level 15.
3 level advantage on Chachi. He's had a Barnstormer of a game, but
he has died 3 times, though.
Yeah, Barnstormer of a game, highest level in the game. We'll go with that. Baron is started, though. 10 seconds on Chachi. No teleport for him at the moment. Schalke will have to do something.
And keep your eyes on PerkZ. Where does he land that ultimate?
Here we go. Call of the Forge God. Arrow hits onto Wunder, but the Call of the Forge God still comes out. Hjärnan on the chase. Doesn't have the change. There's the Chum. Only onto Amazing. He's going to Ragnarok away from that. Won't be fish food today.
Chachi didn't have his TP. PerkZ now going in.
You can just turn this one back around. He's level 17 on that Ryze, has that extra item that we talked about, and Chachi's on his way as well. G2 may have just given up all the vision control they had around this Baron.
So, Wunder's ulti was used, PerkZ ulti was used. Amazing had to trade his ulti in exchange, Upset as a disengage as well. So, a number of ultis were used both sides, but Schalke still feel confident to force this fight with a lot of the engage tools gone for G2.
Weaver's Wall up, Chain of Corruption up, that's what G2 need. There's the chains, only lands onto NukeDuck. He's so tanky. Chachi's on the backline. Wunder now fighting against 4 members of Schalke. They're not back! Goodbye, he says! And once again, Chachi finds the final moment he needs in the fight. G2 somehow still alive in this, although Amazing flashes forward. Jankos goes golden. The turnaround, Chachi knocks him into the destroyed tower and destroys his life. And now Schalke will turn right back towards the Baron with this realm, but the Chum doesn't even hit. And Schalke going to start the Baron.
Now there's no jungler on the side of G2. There's no smite. Will G2 try to steal it away? I don't think they're even going to get in range.
I think they're going to go for it, though. The final fight, perhaps. Call of the Forge God gets the double knock of Amazing, smites it down. Vander dead. Look at NukeDuck, look at Upset, look at Hjärnan, eaten up by Wadid. It's all about Hjärnan here. The Rune Answer's going to do so much work. Schalke caught in the pit, caught by their greed for the Baron, and they are getting demolished by G2. Chachi's gone, Wadid gobbles up NukeDuck as well. Upset, can you do anything in this moment? He takes down 1, he helps NukeDuck get the 2nd, and Updeck comes up huge for Schalke, they lose the Baron, but they could have lost so much more.
4 for 5 in that exchange. We're going to jump immediately into the replay and just keep your eyes on the carries. Start off by looking at this ulti from Chachi. He just says, no more fighting, everyone out. We're going to have a one-on-one with Jankos. He's almost about to drop, but then Wadid comes up huge. Starts to disengage, and then Jankos, with the stopwatch to avoid the axe coming out from Amazing, is where things start to look dire. Now, Fizz using his ulti means that a lot of damage is unavailable, but they have the Ornn horn and they're ready to go. The positioning of Hjärnan is so crucial in the success of G2. And look at all this free damage he's able to get off onto the back line. NukeDuck and Upset are stuck in the back of the pit doing what they can onto Wunder, but they're not able to do enough. Then PerkZ is able to come onto the back line. Chachi's doing his best to try and peel, but at the end of the day, it was G2's carries that had a larger impact, and this was great from Upset. Landing the ulti at the last second, almost getting the kill if it weren't for Wunder. NukeDuck ends up picking it up, but we talked about how Hjärnan got that quadra kill the last time they were in this kind of situation. The triple kill in that final fight is what enabled G2 to get the huge win. The Baron goes down, the gold is still close. Medic, you still need to take care of your voice, because we've got at least another 7 minutes of this game to go.
I'm looking forward to it, and look at that damage coming out from Hjärnan. That's across the entire game. Damage to champions, 32,500. 20,000 more than Upset, 15,000 more than NukeDuck, 21,000 more than PerkZ as well.
Okay, but a lot of things we've got to take into consideration. Summoner spells is the key one. PerkZ does not have his flash, Upset and NukeDuck do. This means that if PerkZ tries to dive onto the backline, not only is it that much harder, but they now have escapes. This is going to be crucial as to how these next two fights play out, and that's why Schalke, they feel pretty confident right now. Jankos is in the bot lane, and they have the Ryze set on this mid inhibitor
Not with his team, but Hjärnan's just going to open up onto Chachi. Tries to get away. The hammer shock will knock them away for the moment. Look at the damage onto Vander on the backline. He's still alive. Chum the Waters didn't fully connect, and that keeps Vander alive for the moment.
Any other ultis available? Just the ulti from Jankos. Amazing still has his. The Realm Warp is there too. A lot of disengaged tools are unavailable. Both teams just looking to reset. Maybe a flank coming off from Vizicsacsi.
NukeDuck has his ultimate as well if they want to try and join the fight from the side. Amazing could look for the flank here as well.
Alright, so the game slowed down a little bit now, Medic.
2,500 gold between these two teams.
Yeah, kills.
37 minutes in.
Kills are tied.
Dragons are tied.
Yes.
One has an ocean, one has a mountain.
Oof, that could be the deciding factor. You know, water versus earth. Common weaknesses, you would often give the advantage to water, so we'll see how things play out as the rest of the game. The Taliyah wall there being used to cut off both Upset and Vizicsacsi. The ulti also landing onto Amazing.
But Amazing just Ragnarok this one away. The inhibitor tower is going to fall. Here comes the fight. Schalke looking for something as they were blocked off from their inhibitor, but not going to be able to find it yet. Remember that Realm Warp is up for NukeDuck. G2 just backing away. Elder Dragon is the next dragon, and the Baron up in about 3 minutes or so.
Oh, these late game fights, so tense between two of the top teams in Europe. Remember, this is the fight for 3rd place. Vitality secured second after going 2-0 on today's tiebreakers. And right now, it is all about that seeding. The winner of this will go up against Misfits in the quarterfinals. Splice, my apologies. Splice. The loser of this will end up going up against Misfits. Both teams considered the weakest of the top 6, but you can never afford to underestimate any team in Europe coming into those best of 5s and coming into playoffs.
You can see how much of a gold swing there has been this game. 4.2 thousand, actually the biggest lead for both of these teams. Yep. So very even matchup between the two. Something that we're starting to see now that we're getting into the late game as well are these upgraded items from the side of G2, the Ornn items. You've got the Molten Edge finished on Hjärnan and the, I don't know what the Zonya's one is called.
Even more Golden Hourglass.
Platinum Hourglass.
There we go.
Oh, yeah. But just that little bit of extra bonus you can get from spending the 1,000 gold that gives you the advantage over your opposite man.
The power of the late game with Ornn. Very rarely do you get to build those items, but as you rightly said, every little helps. Now, the death cap has been completed for PerkZ. Void Staff as well, so he hurts. But for NukeDuck, he's approaching his 5th and final item. Likely going to be that Zonya so that he can help shred through those tanks. But ideally, Schalke kind of want to use him off on a side lane. He's much better utilized in these 1v1 situations with both the Seraphs and the Zonyas. I would give the edge to him against PerkZ, especially seeing as he does have the teleport as well. Chachi's still pretty strong too, and I feel like that Schalke do have the stronger 1-3-1, and really avoiding a team fight would be much better for them versus G2, especially when you see how these fights have been playing out. It does, to me, feel like G2 have been getting the better setups, have been executing on these fights slightly better.
Arrow used on PerkZ, but he dodged away from it with the playful trickster, and here will come the fight. Weaver's wall, Vander pops the Shirelles as well. Double knockup from the call of the Forge God, but the follow-up isn't there. PerkZ hit the Chum the Waters, or used it at least. Didn't see how it connected onto the backline of Schalke, but they will start to regen with those Warmogs and actually set up around this Baron, which is up in just a minute's time.
Tense ultis being thrown out from both sides. A lot of the engage tools often being used to disengage, but it is Schalke that have priority around the Baron. Amazing, running really fast towards G2, but won't try to force anything. They're just going to gain priority over the middle lane. Baron spawning in about 50 seconds, but Elder in about a minute's time. Typically, most teams would want the Baron, especially Schalke, who can then use it to play the 1-3-1. But an Elder in the hands of a team like G2, who have been finding a lot of good fights, would certainly be a valuable addition. Perhaps they go for the trade, perhaps they just focus on this Baron, as we see Vizicsacsi now in the bot lane.
Quite possibly turn a PerkZ Chum the Waters from an almost one-shot to a one-shot on someone like Vander. You never know how much it's going to buff you up. Hjärnan is now fully built as well on that. Varus has got the Ginsu's Rage Blade in his back pocket. It has been very much a battle of the AD carries in these last couple of fights, with both of them trading back and forth. G2 setting up in the river here. Amazing's going to clear out that ward. PerkZ steps forward. Call of the Forge God used. Upset dodging off towards the side. PerkZ down to half HP. Upset still alive. In the midst of it all, there is the arrow coming up, and Schalke going to turn this one back onto G2. Watch Upset as he takes down Wunder, as he shreds through him. Chum the Waters blocked by Amazing. That's perfect for him. Chachi jumps in. NukeDuck there as well. 1-for-1 already in this trade, but Schalke may be looking just to push down mid here.
Two of the big frontliners have been taken down. Remember, the Baron is alive, but G2, they don't want to run the risk of going for it. They're going to go back to base as quickly as they can. Schalke have priority over mid.
Jankos has the Weaver's Wall, though. I wanted him to block this off if he could. He doesn't do it. Inhibitor tower goes down. Chachi knocked back into the midst of this fight. Hjärnan stepping forward. No chain of corruption for him, but can still put out a lot of DPS. PerkZ, the one to leap in with a playful trickster, but cannot find the avenue of attack that he was looking for.
Now, both big objectives in Baron and Dragon have been spawned, but remember, it is Amazing who is dead on the side of Schalke and Wunder who is dead on the side of G2. He has a teleport available and Schalke have no smite, so they're going to look to secure this big objective, perhaps even trade it for an Elder.
It's going to be the trade. Baron goes down. Elder going to get shredded through here by Schalke as well. We said maybe G2 would have wanted to take the Baron themselves. Sorry, Schalke would have wanted to take the Baron themselves, but G2 get it, and Schalke have to settle for an Elder Dragon.
But you can see how difficult to play these late-game team fights are for both sides. One of the big things, though, is that Upset still has that GA. G2 were not able to burn through it. NukeDuck, all the defensive items are still up and available, and you can see how difficult he is to kill. He's a tank in his own way in these late-game fights. Amazing struggling to have impact, but if he's just drawing pressure, drawing ultimates towards him, he is still adding a lot of value as he is keeping his carries alive, who are way more important at this point in the game. But G2, they want to be afraid of trying to fight Schalke in a full 5v5, especially with that Elder and two Drakes. PerkZ tries to go for the ulti, isn't quite able to land it though.
It felt a little bit ambitious from him on a pretty short cooldown now as well. It's up in 45 seconds or so shouldn't be too worried about that. Just trying to get the lane priority if they can. Wunder's down towards that bottom side. Shouldn't struggle too much dealing with Chachi if they end up being in that 1-for-1. Even though Chachi got the early lead, Wunder's come back into this game pretty well, so it would just be a tank war down towards that bottom lane.
How much gold does... Wow, okay, so G2 is surprisingly... like, a lot of their gold is surprisingly low for this late into the game, because you think about it, and the fact that we're 43 minutes in and PerkZ hasn't even completed his 4th item yet is definitely a scary sign for G2 when NukeDuck is full build, Upset is full build, Chachi full build. Their gold staff players are Amazing and Vander, which is kind of the situation that you want, but that's not the same case for G2. Way more of their gold is funneled onto Hjärnan, and then it's more evenly spaced between Jankos, PerkZ, and Wunder. So hopefully G2 can get those items completed so that we have the full-on, the late game where every item is done. People are selling items, maybe selling their boots, investing into potions. That's what you see, you know, those super tense games. Everyone's experienced them at some point. That win feels amazing. The tension all builds into something huge, but the loss can feel so devastating, and no one wants to be the player that makes that crucial mistake.
Especially if you're a Schalke player, because you had that crucial loss against H2K yesterday. You had that moment where you were 10-2, 10-1, and then you lost to the bottom place team in the league. You had the gut check. Now you need to bounce back from it. The loss against Vitality earlier will have hurt them, but maybe it was the reality check they needed to get into a game like this against G2 and fight for that third place.
Third place is on the line. Both these teams want to try and get to Madrid, but they will have to go through the quarterfinals in order to do it. Those will be happening next week, ladies and gentlemen, at our usually scheduled times. 2 best-of-5s, going to be exciting ones, but we're still in this best-of-1. 15-15 is the kill score. The gold is pretty much dead even. G2 and Schalke, 2 of the best teams that we have here in Europe, are fighting neck and neck to secure that third-place spot.
The Elder Dragon buff has expired on Schalke here. The fight begins. Double knock-up, triple in the end. Look at the damage onto Chachi. He has to flash away. Amazing's the new target. Triple hammer knockback, though. G2 just reset. Still 7 seconds left on the Baron. They're looking for the inhibitor if they can get it.
Looked like a big initial engage from G2, but Chachi coming in clutch once more. PerkZ threatening with the playful trickster. He's now getting dangerously low.
He doesn't have Chum the Water.
Oh,
no ultimates. Hjärnan gobbled up by Wadid. Eaten alive and kept alive by his support once again.
Wadid.
No ultimates up on G2 apart from the Abyssal Voyage. What have we got on Schalke? Realm Warp, Ragnarok, no wild growth. That's important. If PerkZ can find a flank, if he can catch onto Upset, he can at least pop that GA.
Ooh, so much tension right now. Schalke, they're feeling confident. They're looking for another engage.
Upset gets the slow Wunder. Jankos in from the side, though. Look for that seismic shove. Can't quite find the opportunity to engage. Big wave in the bottom lane in favor of G2, but Schalke keep pushing forward through this mid. There's an open inhib for them if they can get it. And there's that second Elder on the line in just a little while as well. We are 46 minutes into this game, and there is 1,000 gold between these two teams. Both teams getting towards those 4th, 5th, 6th items. Both teams fighting for their lives for that third place. Remember, it's not only about playing Splyce next week. It's that if you win against Splyce, you do not play Fnatic in semi-finals.
We need to stop saying that, because you look at Vitality today and you think that, Deficio said himself, he considers them to be the top team in Europe. It feels like that our top 2 right now are terrifying. Both these teams did end up struggling against Vitality, and you have to wonder if stylistically Vitality is the scary team that you want to avoid. But what we do know is that both these teams want to win. They want to solidify their dominance over their opposition. They want to come into the quarterfinals feeling confident, feeling strong, and it's Schalke that could be the ones to start things off.
Arrow does not connect, but Chachi does. Here's the call of the Forge God. Wadid's the only one who's really low. Hammer Shock only lands onto Hjärnan, but that's the AD carry done. Vander has to flash the wall. Look at Upset across the wall, though. Wunder so low, just about gets away, but Amazing has his say and takes him down. And now NukeDuck's looking for the flanks. Schalke, 5 members strong, can push down the mid lane here.
Ooh, Schalke, they find themselves a big pick. Wadid now in a lot of trouble. No flash.
No flash, only has the heal and exhaust, and that Tahm Kench is gobbled up by Schalke. 3v5, G2 need to find a way to defend.
Oh, there's still some of the wave clear tools and the Taliyah wall coming out from Jankos. This will buy a little bit of time, but those are some long death timers on the side of G2. Schalke finding a big fight in the mid lane, will convert it into an inhibitor, but the Baron spawning in a minute. Oh, will they try and go for the end?
30 seconds on Wunder, 39 on Wadid. It's up to PerkZ, it's up to Hjärnan to try and do something here. The Ragnarok comes out, that Nexus Tower not being focused. NukeDuck has taken down PerkZ once again. Hjärnan is dead. Schalke null fear at the end of a marathon game are going to lock themselves in 3rd.
Huge team fight win for Schalke. Huge game bounce back after their loss to Vitality. It was such a tense game. It all boiled down to a final team fight where PerkZ couldn't get onto the back line. Schalke were nicely spread apart, where they were able to just shred through Wunder, and once the front line was gone, once they found that pick onto Wadid, it was simply a matter of making their way towards the Nexus and closing out the game.
What a game it was, though. 48 minutes long, back and forth. Mid-game looked very much in favor of Schalke. Turned into G2, then Schalke somehow came back in the end as well. After I started seeing G2 winning from behind, I thought it was done for. I thought it was curtains for Schalke. But they performed incredibly well, and they will be facing up against Splyce in our quarterfinals next week.
Yes, it was such a tense game, so back and forth. 2 of the best teams in Europe just showcasing their stuff. Very similar styles was likely going to result in a very epic match, and that's exactly what we got. Now you can see the completed playoff bracket. This is how our quarterfinals are going to look like next week. Friday will be Schalke versus Splyce. Saturday will be G2 versus Misfits. Definitely some exciting games coming up.
Definitely are. If you're G2, you're probably looking at that Misfits game and saying, yeah, okay, we can take them. Misfits are on a little bit of a downer here. It's not the end of the world that we lost against Schalke today, but a best of 5 against Misfits is nothing to be sniffed at.
It's such an exciting playoffs because G2 versus Misfits is such a big game for so many reasons. Schalke versus Splyce, you look at that matchup and you think Schalke, they weren't even able to qualify last split, whereas Splyce finished 3rd after competing extremely well in playoffs. And there's so much to talk about later on in PGL, but we got to talk about this game. So many clutch fights. G2, they looked down and out. They found a good Baron fight. It was just so back and forth, largely just because of these huge team fights, and it all came down to execution. And this one was literally down to the last 2 members. If it wasn't for Wunder having more HP, who knows how that fight could have played out. And this was the final fight that decided it all. Keep your eyes on the positioning of Upset and NukeDuck. That backline is not threatened at all, whereas Wunder just gets locked down and chased down, and Hjärnan wasn't able to contribute to the fight whatsoever. Schalke picked a perfect time to fight. They executed upon it perfectly, and they were able to find the game win off the back of it.
And we did not having Flash in the end either. Incredible performance all round. We are actually going to be joined by Attila in the post-game lobby, which is going to be a very fun discussion because I know he has a lot to say about Upset and about Hjärnan. And after watching the AD carries in that game, I'm pretty sure he will have his opinion heard.
Yeah, it's going to be, you should definitely stick around for PGL. It's going to be interesting to hear from them. We also have Sheepy still on the desk as well. So a lot of strong opinions, and Deficio will be there, I guess.
Not as important. Superior analyst, not as important for us. But remember, these teams are fighting to secure a spot in Madrid the 8th and 9th of September. Go get your tickets on EU LCS finals at eu.lolesports.com/Madrid. We've also got viewing parties across all of Europe. For more information, visit www.leagueoflegendsincinemas.com. It says it down there on the bottom of your screen. We're going to head over to QuickShot and see what Upset has to say after that win.
Thank you very much. Good cast of the day, gentlemen, and congratulations, Upset. You take down G2 eSports. You take that 3rd place seed. Let's talk about the game very quickly. It looked very close. It looked a little bit G2 favored in the early game, but it felt to me like after you guys won that big team fight in the top lane, you just took control. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, we were kind of surprised by the draft, I think, because they banned 5 bot laners. They banned like 3 supports and 3 ADs and 2 supports. So we had to play something new on bot for sure. And we had kind of a rough early game, but then we had Chachi and Poppy, and he just carried the team fight alone, and we got a 5-4-0, and then we felt kind of in control, but it was still a slow game because we couldn't engage, and they couldn't either so easily. So yeah, it was quite messy.
It's very clear that when you guys are on your comfort picks, you look like one of the best teams in Europe. But there are some question marks around once you get taken off those picks. So knowing you've got quarterfinals and a best of 5 in a week, is this something you guys are thinking about or concerned about?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we have been expanding our champion pool for quite some time now, but when people leave our champs open, we obviously want to pick them and get the wins. So we have champion pool issues in mind, and I don't think we have any issues right now. And yesterday as well, I think, was important. Even though we lost, we realized a lot of stuff that we are doing wrong, and also in practice, how we approached it this week was maybe not optimal. So I think we are going in strong into playoffs, and we have a lot of stuff to show.
I'm really happy you mentioned that, actually, because we were having a discussion in the Shoutcaster room, talking about how losing to HTK in week 9, being in the tiebreakers, is a better time for sort of a rude awakening going to quarterfinals. Yeah. How was it? Losing to HTK yesterday, losing to Vitality earlier today. You take 3rd, but it feels a little bittersweet because of the other losses.
Yeah, it feels really bitter because if we would have won yesterday with Vitality's performance, we would have been 2nd without any tiebreaker. And now we got put into this situation, and last split as well. If I would have won versus H2K in the last game, I would have been in playoffs instead of chilling for the off-season. So losing again was a bit traumatic, especially because they were like 150 115, right?
Exactly.
So we definitely didn't expect it.
H2 and 16 compliments of Schalke.
Yeah, I mean, we did it for the meme, I guess.
You
but
birthed the meme. There we go. Okay, admitted by upset. Let's actually step back, and I've just got 2 more questions for you. Spring Split, obviously missing playoffs was a major blow. There was a lot of expectation, not only on Schalke, but on your shoulders. Now you take 3rd in the regular season, and you're looking at playoffs, and you've got something to prove. So what does success look like for Schalke and Upset?
I mean, after last split, we didn't really have high expectations. We just wanted to try to work as well as possible as a team and see where it gets us. And now that we were so close before 2nd, obviously we had expectations to maybe get the bye, but it didn't happen. But now we're just looking for a playoffs match and try to prepare as good as possible. And I think we can beat every team. Fnatic should be the hardest, but I think we definitely have a lot of potential.
My very last question. We know you're going to be in the regional qualifier gauntlet. We know no matter what happens in the Summer Split playoffs, there is a shot for Worlds. Will Schalke represent Europe at Worlds this year?
I mean, I really hope so. That's the dream of every pro player, I think, to go to Worlds and play versus the best and compete at the highest level. So I hope so. I will do everything I can.
I wish you all the luck in the world. Congratulations again on your win. We're going to head to PGL, where Attila joins the boys.
Well, hello there, EU LCS fans.